bringing you the latest news from Monterey Athletics. This is the Plainsmen Fan Zone podcast from 100.7 The Score.
Welcome back into the Plainsmen Fan Zone on 100.7 The Score. As is the case every Monday in the spring, the Plainsmen get to hit cleanup on LASD night. So we go Coronado, Estacado, Lubbock High, and Monterey from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Wednesdays are Friendship, Lubbock Cooper, and Liberty from 6 to 7 p.m. Next fall, at the latest, we'll add Memorial to that mix. We've talked Josh Davis, Monterey basketball coach, Monterey. He's going to get mad at me. Basketball legend. Jill gets really mad.
Yeah, that's true. She's the legend.
But you're a playing legend. You're working on the coaching part.
Working on it.
You're still way young. But basketball. I know you made a big deal of hanging up Josh Washington's number and jersey up there. I've heard somebody that night say, well, why isn't Josh's up there?
I'm much further down a lot of those lists of career things than he is. So, yeah, he's about 700 points, another season of averaging 16 or so ahead of second place on our list. So, yeah, that'll be maybe when I'm old and gray, somebody will feel sorry for me, but it ain't going to happen between now and then.
You guys believe that Coach was a pretty good player in his day?
He was all right.
Pick up.
Yeah, he was decent.
Can he still play, Sam? Can he still light it up when he needs to?
From what he tells us, yeah. But we do shooting competitions every once in a while.
That's what we only shoot. Wins, I'm too old to go up and down or any of that anymore. But when they have good shooting days, they come over to me and then want to challenge, the king of the jungle. So.
Because I ran this by you on text the other day. You and Jose Perez, the new Lubbock High coach, are roughly the same age?
He's a little bit 5-6 years older, something like that. But we met when my dad was coaching at Lubbock High when he was playing there, and I was always around as the little guy, the ball boy, and so known him since 7th, 8th grade, somewhere in there, and known him since then, and so really excited for him to get that chance and step into that role as an alumni as well.
And full circle, Tim worked with you a little bit, so you get a little modicum of credit.
A little bit, yeah. We worked on left-hand layups when he was between about 4 and 6 for quite a bit of the summers, and that was me, Tim, and Jose in the gym for a couple hours working on left-hand layups at 5 years old. Made for some enjoyable afternoons.
Well, let's talk to these two guys because we're going to talk a little bit about the All-City team that came out on HubCityPreps.com this week. Sam is a second-team All-City guy. Kanan, you weren't on there, but I think you didn't. You had to take some time to get your feet under you this season.
After Kanan broke his hand in Prosper in early November, and we didn't get him back till about mid-January, so he really only got 7-8 games in our district season to kind of put something towards that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I missed, what was it, exactly 2 months by the time I came back? Yeah, so I didn't really get much of anything. So,
I know, Sam, you're going to be a junior.
Senior. They're both going to be seniors.
Yeah, we're both
going to be
seniors next year.
Yep,
that's what I meant.
They both are.
Because, all right, let's tear the bandage off. Monterey did not make the playoffs.
No, sir.
For the first time under Josh Davis.
Yep.
For the first time since.
It's been a while. Probably 12-ish, somewhere in there, years. And this year to me is one of those the what ifs. Me and my wife, I got to introduce her to Derrick Rose the other night when they were retiring his jersey, and we were talking about why people were crying and what a big deal it was, and the injury story. That was kind of the story of our year, that we had 11 guys in the team picture, and there wasn't a single game this year that we had 11 guys on the bench between injuries and sickness and football and all that. There were a few Caprock games we had 6 between injuries and sickness, and then Kanan got hurt, and before he came back, Luke had gotten hurt. And so we were shorthanded all year, and these guys did a great job to not let that be an excuse and keep fighting. And we were still, even with all of that and the kind of mismatched kind of group that we were at times, we were still controlling our destiny a little bit, trying to get in the playoffs there at the end. And I think it just speaks to them and their character and their work ethic and the skills that they have, and setting us up for next year.
You just hit Lubbock High baseball was just in here, similar thing. They were in really good playoff condition and hit a rough patch. Kind of the same thing with you guys. You were right there and hit that home stretch and leaked a little oil.
Yep, and it's never a good thing. It's never enjoyable. But sometimes those kind of experiences are better teachers than things going well. Sometimes you get away with stuff when it's going really well that really, somebody's going to exploit when the things get a little more even. But man, I think it's really lit a fire under these guys, the guys that are juniors coming back, and the JV guys that are going to be filling some new roles next year. Of let's put everything we got into this, and we may have injuries again, something we can't control, but nobody's using it as a woe is me moment, and man, what all could we have done? Because it really was, injuries and sickness really just got us really consistently throughout the year last year.
All right, hand that mic to Sam. We're going to talk a little bit because you got two really good building blocks coming back to know of. Kane, I didn't get a chance to see you much, so apologies for not including you there. Okay. But as I mentioned, Sam, second team All-City, and you have Elijah Smothers coming back, who was the Offensive Player of the Year in Lubbock, which Josh and I exchanged some texts. There was some disagreement on that, but that's all right.
That's the way those lists always go.
I figure if you don't get some complaints, you're not doing something
right.
Sam and Elijah give you two really good building blocks to begin with. Sam, how excited, and I mentioned this in the little blurb, I'm not sure, you missed last year with an injury, correct?
I was getting back from an injury,
okay.
So I didn't play very much, but I was just kind of, getting my feet under me, like you said. So.
I think Coach told me you were a very energetic volunteer assistant coach most of last year.
Yeah, that's what Kaden was this year when he was hurt too. I heard more strategy stuff during the games.
Have a little coaching experience now.
Sir.
Getting back on the court, playing with Elijah, how much does that encourage you now, especially with that hunger that Coach is talking about, that you guys are going to go into the summer with a little bit of an edge?
Yes, sir. I mean, it's huge, especially, growing up playing with Kanan and Elijah, and we just have this, chemistry, and I think – like Coach was saying, sickness, football, like all this, injuries. It's just hard to, play together and, play together as a team when you're playing with new people, every day. And I think being with Elijah and playing and with Kanan, I think it's huge coming up chemistry-wise. I think we know what to expect. We were new this year, so especially for me, it was like different. JV to varsity, it was a big change. Difference. So just faster pace, and I just think having a year under our belt and the chemistry between us two, I just think that's going to be huge going into next year.
I don't think I talked to or interviewed Elijah at any point this season when he didn't say, I've played with these guys forever. Hey, it's something that you guys lean into a little bit. We're coming up on a break, so we'll come back and talk about this on the Plainsmen Fan Zone. When you guys were healthy and whole, you could play with anybody, and that includes some of the best teams in Lubbock this year. Coming up on a break, we'll come back on 100.7 The Score in the Plainsmen Fan Zone.
Diving headfirst into Monterey athletics. You're listening to the Plainsmen Fan Zone on 100.7 The Score and the 100.7 The Score mobile app.
Welcome back to the Plainsmen Fan Zone. We had a discussion about coaches and officials, and I tried to explain to these two young guys that sometimes coaches revert. You still got a little bit of, and sports writers do too. And radio guys, don't get me wrong. First of all, we're male species, so we never quite outgrow being a teenager.
Nope.
And when you're involved in sports, a little bit of testosterone still involved. So we'll just stop there. We'll start talking about basketball again. I want to go back. I want to get Kanan to talk because, like I said, I didn't get a chance to see, but if you're in that same group with them, you guys have obviously had some success because Sam and Elijah showed me that there is a good chemistry that you guys have played together.
Yes, sir. When I get back, like next year, they're probably going to be our two leading guys for scoring, and I'll just try to fit in where I'm at and try to get them as much points as possible and score here or there. But yeah, we've played since, I'd say, we went to elementary school together, so we've played since then, and then just growing up, going to camps at Monterey camp and going to summer workouts, we've literally always been together. So yeah, it's really nice. It's a luxury to have them. You
guys have known Coach Davis since you were...
Yes, sir. He used to go to our Evans practices, do everything. Yep.
I think I can guess the answer to this because you talked about the hunger. But for you, what's this offseason going to be like to get these guys ready to make this? Mark Giannis from Estacado Baseball was in. They missed the playoffs last year for the first time. You're a Lubbock guy. Estacado in the baseball playoffs, that's a given. How eager are you to see how much that hunger gets these guys going?
I'm definitely enjoying this time of year. Seeing my wife and kids a little more than I do in the winter. But as competitive as we are and the way the job goes, I'd be more than happy to play somebody tomorrow and start this all over again. I think what's been one of our focuses is like Sam was saying, moving JV to varsity, just the besides the physical aspect, everybody gets bigger, stronger, faster, but how much more, all those details start to matter, how much more executing against somebody else's scout of you and doing vice versa and taking away strengths and things like that, that help you, especially, end of a district season, playing somebody for the second time. And they've probably watched you play 13, 14 times within our district games and really knowing really exactly what the other team wants to do, how they want to take us away, and how they're going to guard us, and then being able to make those changes, as on the fly as much as we can within the game to still get the success, and what that takes mentally and physically, and kind of like you said, when we were at full strength and we were operating well, I mean, we've got in another year, 4 years in a row, we've beaten somebody in the top 25. We beat Dallas White in the Cap Rock, who was number 15 at the time, with the big 7-foot kid. Amarillo High had our chances, and played Dallas Roosevelt in the Cap Rock, and we're more than competitive in those, and just what a next step it is to get that detail focus where now we can maybe get a number next to our name and become the one that everybody's hunting instead of being the one chasing people sometimes.
Monterey may be a little bit different because you've got the college background, but Parker Hicks and Morgan Glaspie from Liberty mentioned this in the first year of that school, that one thing that younger kids that aren't on varsity also have to adjust to is a lot more film, a lot more game planning, because when you're a middle school kid and maybe a freshman or JV kid, it's just go play. How have you guys kind of learned, because this dude was a high-level college player. I was talking about how good a high school player he was. He was a high-level college player too. How much of an adjustment was getting used to breaking down film and game planning and all that as a high school kid? Because there's a lot more cerebral stuff when you start to get a little bit older.
I mean, JV year probably watched film one time, and then this year varsity I probably watched film 10 times in 1 week for one team. So I mean, it's huge. Like especially like Amarillo High, we had a packet like this big just for game plans against them, and having a college coach that I'm a college player that has been.
I was worried he was going to leave for Sanford when the job came open.
You and my wife, yeah, y'all sound the same.
Yeah.
But you've got, for those who don't know, Sam is Luke Arrington's younger brother. Who Luke talked about the same thing, going from JV football to varsity football. There's just a world of difference. And you were, tell me who your coach was before.
Coach Self.
No.
McFerrin?
Yes. Were you the JV coach under him, or were you a varsity assistant coach?
A little bit of both.
Okay.
We had one less coach then, so we all had a team, and then we were all also varsity assistants. So I had the JV on those game nights, and then was the varsity assistant when that came around too.
So sometimes a coach has to adjust to, I can't put as much on these guys' plates because they're not used to it, but you get to be juniors and seniors, it's time to take it a little bit more seriously. Not that they didn't before. We're coming up on a break. Luckily with Monterey, we get an extra segment because Monterey hits cleanup on Monday nights. We'll be back in the Plainsmen Fan Zone after this break on 100.7 The Score.
Your inside look into Monterey sports. This is the Plainsmen Fan Zone on 100.7 The Score and the 100.7 The Score mobile app.
Welcome back. One more segment of the Plainsmen Fan Zone on Monday night. I'm trying to jump the gun here because it's playoff season in baseball and softball, and I love playoff season because I love Josh, we've been there before with you when you were with Jeremy, and then since you've been there, just the intensity that, and I know you wanted these guys that didn't get to experience this year how different that is, how things ratchet up, and we were talking about preparation, but also there's that emotional stuff you get to do in the playoffs.
Gets even more heightened when the end of the season or a career possibly is on the line for each one of those, and there literally may be no tomorrow. That the preparation and all that gets even more, and the execution within the game it's even more important.
Elijah's not here, but we've talked a lot about him. We've talked about what you guys can do next year. He's a big key to that, obviously. We'll get you two guys to talk about You know him well, so I know it's weird to talk about your friend a little bit, but how good is Elijah? How good can he be next year in his final go-round?
When he gets going, it's quick. Like he might start off a little bit rough, but when he gets going and those shots are falling, he's not going to stop. Like he's just going to keep going, and he's got such a quick shot, and he's so good. Like I think that his biggest thing is like the way he can position himself on offense, like the way he moves around, and he just always knows where the ball is, and he knows to get there, and it's easy to.
Yes.
Yeah, it's so fun to play with him because you just know where he is at all times, and get it to him, he's going to score. So
because a couple of games, Sam, you two have incredible chemistry. Maybe I want to go out on a limb here. Friendship guys had some pretty good chemistry a lot, but the two of you. It was like almost innate. You knew where he was going to be. He knew where you were going to be. I remember it was in your gym. I can't remember what game it was where he wasn't shooting great, but he knew where to find you, and you were shooting great. So how cool is that to know that you guys get that, knock on wood, injury-free, illness-free, you get that year together with Kanan coming back, that you guys kind of get to see what you can do with it.
It's awesome to have a guy you can lean on when your shots aren't going in, and that's why Elijah's so great. And like Kanan was saying, he just knows where to be, and he's a great shot maker, and just you can always count on him. There's a bunch of games I can count this year that I wasn't shooting the ball great, and Elijah was. And for example, at Cooper, I wasn't shooting the ball great, and I was starting to throw up bad shots, and so I just said, okay, I'm just going to start giving them to Elijah and do my job on defense, and that resulted in a win. So just having someone to rely on is huge.
And I love at Cooper, Jim, I can't hear Coach very well, though, right? You said that you weren't hitting shots. The other two thing about watching these guys, Josh, is that Elijah and Sam were fearless in terms of they were going to take the ball into traffic, because you're not a small dude. You're not as big as Luke. I know you probably heard that a lot.
Yeah.
You have time to catch him. Yeah. My wife even mentioned that the other day. She said, how tall is Luke? My wife grew up with your dad and your uncle in Plainview. And she even said, he's a lot taller than Callie. I said, yeah, he's a big kid. So maybe you got that to look forward to.
For sure.
Coach
definitely still on the way.
Yeah.
Yep.
But neither one of you or Elijah is huge, but just the fearlessness of those two guys. And I know you like that because that's kind of the Monterey personality.
Yeah, and we talk about that a lot, especially with guys that shoot the ball as well as Sam and Elijah did this year, and as well as Kane's going to shoot it next year. They've worked incredibly hard on their shot and mechanics and being able to get it off, quick and in rhythm and move in different directions. But we talk a lot about how being a good shooter is like trying to make the Hall of Fame in baseball. You hit 300, you're in the Hall of Fame, but that means you might have struck out 7 out of 10 times. And shooting's the same way, where elite guys in the NBA shoot 40%, maybe a little bit more, which means more than half the time you're missing. And so to be able to grow that mental toughness, to be working towards the next shot, or be able to feel what went wrong and be able to fix it the next time, they're all in on that and want feedback, want coaching, want help all the time on that. And I think that's really going to pay off for us next year to have a lot of different weapons, kind of like Sam was saying, where if somebody's having an off night, we've got 2 or 3 that can either make up for it individually or collectively, and kind of rotate who's doing the damage, kind of death by 1,000 cuts sometimes.
And I think, like, if I could say one thing, just reflecting off of that, I think we all, like, because we've grown up with each other, playing with each other, I think we all motivate each other to be better, and like we all have we all want to basically outperform each other as teammates, if that makes sense, but also helping each other at the same time. Like we all want to be our best, and we all push ourselves to be our best.
All right, we're coming up on the end here. You guys said, Coach, you haven't shot it out with Coach. You had another pretty good shooter on Monterey's campus here the last 4 years. Did you guys ever take on Aaliyah in a shooting contest?
No, I've not.
You still have time, right?
Yeah,
she
got a couple weeks. Maybe we can
weeks.
arrange it here at the end of school.
I think she's holding some sort of camp here next week.
I heard about that, yeah.
In all seriousness, and Josh, a proud Monterey graduate, how cool was it for you guys, all 3 of you, the quick answer, to see those girls finish that journey?
And it's incredibly special to see, watching it on NFHS and seeing all that happen. It's more than a once in a lifetime thing for them, and hope they look back on it in a good way.
That's going to wrap us up on the Plainsmen Fan Zone. We'll be back Wednesday with Friendship, Lubbock, Cooper, and Liberty. I'm Randy Rosetta. This has been the High School Fan Zone on 100.7 The Score.